name is Christy, and today I want to talk to you about flexibility. So as I sat down to write the post for this week, I found myself a bit saddened. We've recently had to change our holiday plans. So instead of spending Christmas with extended family, we'll be spending it here at home. Okay, that sounds overly dramatic, and I really don't mean to sound that way. But let's put this into perspective. Due to the rise in cases of COVID-19 across the country, many areas are resurrecting their various levels of lockdown again. Our state's no different. Earlier this month, we were moved into what our governor was calling Stay Home 2.0. When these recommendations weren't enough to stop this rise in cases, we were moved to actual restrictions to businesses and meeting sizes. And now masks are required. Wait, they've been required for months, so that part's not new. I suspect things are similar in your area. Now, this new round of restrictions led our extended family to reconsider getting together in another state. See, we live in 3 different states, and we are all traveling to one person's house. We considered the fact that we would have to drive clear across a state that's essentially in lockdown mode, in addition to traveling through 2 other states and spend the night somewhere along the way. The other traveling family members would also have to spend the night along their way. It just made sense to postpone the plans to get together until things are a bit safer. And that brought some disappointment. Even though I know it's the right decision, and even though I agree with the decision. But this is where I find myself choosing to grab hold of that flexibility superpower I talked about a few weeks ago. I've got a link to that post over on the blog. You can find that at www.havenofhopeforme.com. This post originally posted the end of November of 2020. Remaining flexible means that you can accept a change in plans, disappointment, or whatever, and move on. It doesn't necessarily mean you're thrilled about it, but it means that you can adjust, adapt, accept, and move on. It means that we've now adjusted our plans for the holiday. We'll be staying home, which means that we'll actually put up our Christmas tree because we don't always put it up if we're not going to be home for Christmas. And it means that I need to get moving on gifts so that I can make sure they're shipped out in time to arrive on time. It also means that I'm looking for things to be excited about or grateful for. Things like we don't have to rush around right after exams are over to leave on time. Poor weather conditions won't be an issue as we're driving long distances. We get to have a quiet celebration here at home. Extra visits with friends that we don't see very often here in town are now possible. And we can continue with some of our at-home Christmas traditions with our church, if they're still having them, and who knows right now what that's going to be like. Do you know what the craziness of this year has taught me the most? It's that how we choose to look at things will make or break them for us. We can choose to look for the positives and find the best possible alternatives. Or we can choose to look at the negatives and find all the things wrong that's going on around us. Now, alternatively, if we remain flexible, we can pull ourselves out of a negative thinking pattern and onto a positive path. We can choose to stop looking for the negatives and instead focus on the positives of the situation. So, in my example from earlier, instead of focusing on my disappointment that we're unable to travel to see family for Christmas, I'm choosing to look for the positives of staying home. And I listed those a minute ago. So how does this apply to you? Well, I hope the answer is relatively obvious. It's all about your choices. Where will you choose to focus? On the negatives or the positives? Will you choose to look for things to be grateful for and or lessons that you can learn from the situation? Or will you choose to focus on the fact that you didn't get what you were hoping for? Your choices will determine your level of contentment and joy, or disappointment and unhappiness. As we enter into this holiday season, even with the craziness and unpredictability that this year continues to be, I hope that we can all choose to focus on the positives in this season of joy. Yes, it is likely to be very different than other years, and it's probably even different than we originally planned for this year. But different doesn't have to mean bad or disappointing. It just means different, not as originally planned. I also believe that we'll find unexpected opportunities and things to be excited about, even in the midst of the additional restrictions and or encouragement to stay home or quarantine, so that we can all help flatten the curve and remain healthy. Now, look for things that you never expected. Maybe it'll be as simple as making special treats together that you wouldn't have been able to do in your normal hustle and bustle of the season. Maybe it'll be extra family time where you just enjoy being together. And who knows, you might even find a new tradition that you like for this year. So my question for you this week is this. How are your plans changing for the holiday season? Are you able to keep any of your usual activities? I'd love to hear about it. You can leave me a comment below, or you can leave me a comment over on the blog. Again, that's at www.havenofhopeforme.com. This originally posted the end of November of 2020. And maybe you'll give me an idea that I can try with my family. I'm choosing to remain flexible and look for the positives so that I can continue to say that life is good and there is never a dull moment.